Okay, so welcome to another lockdown lesson in the kitchen. We've been working on a series of video clips to help support you with education in basic beard cutting. So this is clip number 3. So again, if you haven't watched the previous 2 clips, jump straight back and just kind of watch those first. Today we're working on doing shorter beard cuts. We're going to be working on using the clipper attachment and we're going to be working on some detail within the beard looks. A couple of things I wanted to point out before we go much further though is obviously face shape is everything when you're working with a beard, and you design the beard to complement the face shape, as you all know. However, key areas of the kind of facial jawline needs to be talked about. We often call this part here the mandible or the apex. It's the bottom lower part of the chin or the jawline, and when you're designing beard shapes it's really important to bear this area in mind. You're trying to keep every line you create for a beard shape below this particular area. If it goes too high, it kind of releases this area and can look a little bit like a double chin. So just kind of pop the kind of design line just underneath that particular area, and it will be really good to complement your customer's face shape. So at this stage what we're looking at doing is putting a clipper guard on. In this case we're going to be using a grade 4, which is a 13mm half an inch attachment. Attachments are obviously on quite securely. Some people will hold them on just in fear of them popping out. They should be on quite safely though, so as long as you go nice and slowly you shouldn't have a problem with that. So we're going to be working a grade 4 all the way around this particular length, and it's really important to remember to use the clippers in different directions, as often you may have some growth patterns within the beard. So to pick up on the hair, really work it through in different directions to get a nice even kind of distribution of weight. It's really important to ensure that you don't put the clippers on too tight. Okay, so they vibrate, they're heavy, so the last thing you want to do is really push you in and be aggressive with it. It's going to be very uncomfortable for your customer. That's not acceptable. So obviously clippers on, nice and gently, working through, reducing the length to this 13mm grade 4 attachment and going in different directions to ensure that you are creating a really nice even base. Nothing can really go wrong as long as you're taking it nice and slowly and working around in different directions. The key areas you must be very careful of is how you blend and connect. For us it's not a problem because this is shorter, but if it was longer you would need to section that hair off where the beard joins the hair. And always be very cautious and careful how you're working around the moustache area. And with a clipper guard attachment, you're really going to struggle to get in that area. The last thing you need to do is to poke the gentleman up the nose with a clipper attachment, or poke him in the lips. So you're just going to have to be really mindful that a clipper guard attachment is not really going to be suitable for cutting those areas. So what we're going to do next is switch to a clipper over comb technique. Obviously most combs will have different variations in thickness, so therefore they would represent a different type of grade number. So this one's quite a thick one, it's possibly about a grade 3, probably more of a grade 2. So we're going to be using our thicker comb, obviously because it's got wider teeth on it and it's more comfortable to work through a very coarse beard, and it's easier to pick up on the hair. We're going to be using the clipper over comb technique, whereby the comb is held stationary and the clippers will travel along the comb, reducing the length, similar to a clipper and a guard, but in a much more controlled manner. Really important just to make sure you do not go too fast and that your clippers stay parallel with the comb. Always make sure that when you're doing anything with a clipper over comb technique that you're mindful where your clippers are. So for instance in this case, if the clippers are quite low, there's a chance I might chunk into some of the underneath section, which would be a disaster. When you're applying your clippers onto any area of the customer, be it the neckline when cutting or on any facial areas, before you do so, Obviously just check it on yourself first to make sure it's not going to harm the customer anyway. Now we're going to just look at cutting around the kind of top lip area as you would do with a moustache. I generally would recommend not using a pair of scissors in this area, just simply because if there was an incident and you did cut the gentleman's lip, we would have a serious problem. So again, just using a pair of clippers avoids any issues when you're working around the top lip area. Being a blockhead, his top lip is a little bit dodgy, so we're not going to be able to produce a fantastic shape, but you'll get the general idea of what we're trying to achieve. So using the corner of your clippers, we're just going to literally start to take out the excess length. Now what we're going to look at doing is just dropping this line down slightly. Depending on whether your customer's beard is very dense or maybe slightly patchy, or maybe just because they wish, you may want to just drop the line down slightly from the natural kind of area. So we're just going to concentrate on dropping this down slightly. Again, on a blockhead, you're never going to see the real detail as if you would do it on a gentleman in a barber shop, but the techniques is what I'm trying to get across and explain to you, just to give you the confidence to have a go for yourself. So one of the hardest things to do when you're dropping a beard line down slightly is to get it so it's nice, even and symmetrical. It's very challenging because often facial features aren't always symmetrical, so therefore it might vary out slightly. A couple of really good top tips to remember, and it's fine to do so, is once you've created a shape, use your comb as a measuring tool and maybe just drop your comb down and use your teeth of the comb to give you an impression of where you want to drop down on the opposite side. So that way you can check your measurements and check how accurate you are with the dimensions of the beard shape. It has got to be really parallel, even, symmetrical and precise. It is nothing other than just a practice thing. It's one of those things you're going to have to do many a times to really get comfortable with it. Getting a line established, you can either use your clippers in a motion whereby you are pushing out, or you can pull in to establish your line. So some people will put your clippers on the line you want to create and push the clippers away to remove and reduce the hair. Other people will bring the clippers into the line and stop, and that way you're reducing and removing the hair. Either way. So depending on how you're going to connect your haircut and your beard cut together will depend on so many different techniques that are available for you to use. In this case, the haircut is probably at this stage about a grade 4 and the beard's not a million miles away from that. So to get that connection, we're going to use our comb. We're going to come in and collect and just ensure that we've got a flow or a blend or a connection. So we go in and collect. Haircut needs to be a little bit longer, so we just push the comb out, pivot it out, elevate it out, keeping the haircut longer but the beard cut slightly tighter to just give you that connection point. You can see there's a couple of little bits we need to just blend in. So again, using our stationary flip over comb technique, we're just going to make sure that that haircut and beard cut connects, and we'll do the same on the opposite side. Also available is a little bit of freehand just to tidy up on any of the key areas. When you're looking at a beard shape, there's kind of two areas we're looking at. This is kind of a line that drops from the haircut down through the natural kind of hair line, and then there's another section that connects in this area. So you're kind of having that angle to think about whether we're dropping it down or it's a little bit more square. Some people call this like line number 1, line number 2, A, B, it doesn't really matter, but there's that connection area in the back here from the sides to the main structure of the beard, and this is obviously very negotiable to how you design your beard and at what angle this connection point in this area should be. Okay, so what we're looking for next time round is we're going to introduce the cutthroat razor and how we use that tool to define edge work and start to really give it some really nice structure. So join us again for some more beard cutting. If you like the obviously video training that we are doing at the moment, then don't forget to subscribe and press the little bell button for notifications of when new videos will turn up. As always, stay really safe and try for now.